Sounds good.
Prior to us coming back to order, I'd like to refer anybody who needs translator services to Miss Maria Labattle in the back.
Muy buenas noches, María Lobato. Estoy aquí para ofrecerles servicios de intérprete en español. Si necesitan, pueden pasar a agarrar un dispositivo, estar en la parte de atrás. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Miss Labattle. Welcome to the Modesto City Schools 1463rd regular board meeting of June 21st, 2021. This meeting is now called to order. In closed session, the board gave direction to legal counsel. We have some board members who are joining us via Teams tonight, so we will be taking roll call. Trustee Brown?
I am present.
Is here. Trustee Irvin via Teams, are you here?
Yes, present.
Oh, loud and clear. We got you. Okay. Trustee Maestas is absent this evening. Trustee Marks?
Present.
Is here. Trustee Mejia via Teams, can you hear us?
Present.
Thank you. Vice President Lopez?
Present.
Thank you. And President West is here. Please stand and join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. Good evening, everyone. This open session meeting of the Board of Trustees is being live streamed at the direction of the board. The live stream is available on the district's website, and the recordings will be available for viewing the day after the board meeting. Modesto City School Board meetings have been adjusted for the public to follow state guidelines on social distancing until further notice. Regarding public comment, MCS has provided an opportunity for the public to provide comment. It is outlined in the agenda. The public has been given an opportunity to call in and leave a voicemail, send us a comment via email address, or appear in person before the board. This practice will continue until further notice. For members of the public who are interested in commenting in the future, we welcome your comments. I do want to call your attention to the fact that if you wish to address the board during the period for public comment on a subject not on the agenda, you must complete a public presentation request card and submit it to the board president prior to the period for public comment. Only those who have submitted cards will be called upon to speak, and no cards will be accepted after the period has begun. Every person who wishes to address the board must fill out a card, and you will find the cards in the lobby. That brings us now to the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Brings us to A5, which is Superintendent Noguchi's welcome and announcements.
Thank you, and good evening, and thank you for joining us again this evening. I'm going to keep it real short. I'm happy that we've finally come to the end of the school year and the end of our board meetings for this year. You'll notice in the audience tonight, I only have a few cabinet members. I think there's two. The rest are on break, which I'm happy that they are. So we'll look forward to looping back around in July and restarting the year. I know this coming year we've got some very exciting opportunities for kids and our staff, and it'll be happy to report that. I do want to share that I participated in an event on Saturday along with Trustee Marks and Trustee Irvin, and that was a Juneteenth event down at the King Kennedy Center. But central to that was an NAACP graduation with President Wendy Byrd doing a fantastic job at facilitating that. It was an honor to have presented there. But I want to capitalize on that for just a moment. I did ask the students and their parents if anyone was looking for a job, that Modesto City Schools is hiring, and anyone who is interested, if anyone's listening to this tonight that's interested in any sort of employment, I highly encourage you to get online in Modesto City Schools. We have lots of positions open this summer and even more for the next year, because the ELO dollars and the ESSER dollars allow for additional staffing for our youth. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great news. We're going on now to A6, which is our Board of Education member reports. Do we have any board members who have a report this evening? Trustee Brown.
This past week I was able to attend the construction committee meeting, and I'm looking forward to the presentation this evening that highlights all the things that I've been able to review and see coming. And so much positive is happening within the district, and so grateful that we've been on top of all of these projects, and in many cases been able to get ahead of the line, because all districts have money to spend right now, but our district was prepared and ready to go out to contract and line up the best contractors for the jobs that we have. So thanks to that committee and all the hard work that they do.
Thank you. Trustee Marks.
I just had a couple. I wanted to make a comment about the Juneteenth ceremony at Mellis Park. It was awesome. It was one of the largest turnouts that I've seen in many years, and it was just great to reconnect with people that I hadn't seen because of COVID. So that was really fun. I thought Trustee Irvin and Dr. Noguchi did a great job at the handing out the certificates and the kente cloths and making comments. So that was great. It was a great celebration. Lots of booths out there too, and it was just fun. It was fun. It was a little hot. It was supposed to be, I think, 103 or 105 that day. So, and then I also attended the Clergy Council meeting, and a lot of really helpful information, some difficult information too, because they also report from different departments on things that are happening, and including probation, family justice center, the sheriff's department. But I will mention one that we have had, the CHP had commented that we have a lot more fatal collisions than in the past, and it's been really big. So they're going to try to see what they can do to get some grants to be able to find out the cause of the increase in fatal collisions, and then also to help decrease the DUIs, because there's quite a number of DUIs. So they've been working on that. But it was great to be there with all the different departments at King Kennedy Center over on right next door to Mellis Park. So it was a good meeting overall, and I appreciate all the information that is shared at that meeting, and the partnerships between the Clergy Council, the Police Department, and law enforcement, Family Justice Center, and Modesto City Schools. So that was really good too.
Thank you. Looking to see Trustee Irvin.
Yes, I just wanted to report again. With Dr. Noguchi and Trustee Marks, I was at the Juneteenth celebration, which marks the ending when all slaves were found out they had been freed. The Texas slave didn't find out until 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed on January 1st, 1863 by President Lincoln. And so Juneteenth marks the celebration that when everybody was now recognized as being free. The Texas slaves still labored for 2.5 years after they were officially free. So it's good that it's now a national holiday, and everything was excellent. Like Trustee Mark said, a lot of people, booths, Modesto City School was commented for having a booth there and recruiting for jobs and other programs that we have in the district. So it was very, very good to see that out there as well. And our students who had graduated as well, 8th grade through 12th grade, and college students. And so it was just a nice event to attend, well attended, and everybody was appreciative of our superintendent and our board members who attended the event. And so it was good. It was good. And we also had a former board member attend, which is our mayor now. Susan Wallen was there as well. So a good time had by all.
Thank you. Looking for other hands from our team's members. Seeing none. I would like to take just a moment to discuss something. Since our last board meeting 2 weeks ago, I haven't attended any meetings, but I would like to take this time to acknowledge a very special recognition, which was recently given to Dr. Noguchi. On behalf of all of the Board of Trustees, I'd like to take a few minutes to recognize Dr. Noguchi. We're so proud that Dr. Noguchi was recently selected by Region 7 of the Association of California School Administrators as Superintendent of the Year. With more than 29 years of experience, both in and out of the classroom, Dr. Noguchi is a true instructional leader. She has an incredible passion for meeting the needs of our marginalized groups that have historically struggled. She believes the keys to student success are based on exceptional teaching, as well as parent engagement, stakeholder involvement, and interaction with a variety of community resources. Dr. Noguchi views student success through the lens of equity. I think this is so important. And so she's continuing her steadfast commitment to both equity and racial justice at all levels of the organization. Over her tenure, Dr. Noguchi has dedicated herself to developing meaningful relationships and establishing trust, something we all felt was so important, both internally and externally. Her commitment to Modesto City Schools, to our students, their families, and the entire Modesto community is evident in everything she does. So Dr. Noguchi, we are so appreciative to have you as our superintendent, and congratulations on being named 2021 Superintendent of the Year.
Thank you, President West. Thank you.
We appreciate you. We're going to move on now to A7, which is the approval of the consent agenda. And so, Ms. Chambers, are there members of the public who wish to speak on the consent agenda this evening? Thank you. Ms. Fortuna, were there any comments from the public via email or voicemail on the consent agenda? Okay, thank you. The law limits the response of the board members. And before we vote to approve the consent agenda, I wish to recuse myself from C7. My husband works for one of the companies that's listed on the vendor list. So we're going to take a vote first on everything except C7, and then I will leave the room. So do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item C7?
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Marks and seconded by Trustee Brown. There's just a few of us in the room today, so I think we're going to probably hear our names over and over. Those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. And so, Vice President Lopez, I'm going to recuse myself for item C7.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve C7, approval of authorization to renew annual contracts with specific suppliers for specific supplies, commodities, or service for 2021-2022? I hear a motion.
I'll second.
By Trustee Brown and seconded by Trustee Marks. All those in favor signify by saying, raising your hand and saying aye.
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 I hear all ayes. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Vice President Lopez. Thank you so much.
I have a question of protocol. Are the team members able to participate in the motions and seconds?
Yes, they could by raising their hand. They could.
I'll make it my job to watch for their hands if they choose to do that.
I appreciate that, Trustee Brown, because this screen is not showing me anything, so I have to turn around, and I don't see all of them up there. So if you can help look for hands, I would appreciate it.
That's John. John, you need to mute.
After that brief musical interlude, we'll move on to A8, which is the approval of the order of discussion items. Do I hear a motion to approve the order of discussion action items?
I move approval.
Trustee Marks moves approval, seconded by Trustee Vice President Lopez. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Moving on now to A9, period for public presentations. This takes us to the period for public presentations, and I want to thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Your attendance shows your interest in your school, all of our schools, and for that we do thank you. The maximum time for any one speaker is 3 minutes. Before I ask tonight's speakers to address the board, I want to clarify that we may not engage in any discussion on topics that will be raised, because we're legally obligated to provide the public with advance notice about topics that the board will be discussing. I have one card, and so Ms. Chambers, will you please call Dr. Fred Edmondson to the podium? Dr. Edmondson has a fan group. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, as noted, go ahead. Shall I start now?
We're ready. Thank you.
My name is Fred Edmondson, and I serve as the president of the men's group. With me today is Mr. Joe Pope, who's our vice president, Dr. John Walker, who is on our marketing committee, Mr. Mark Cullors, who's a parliamentarian, and Mr. Leroy Gambrell, co-founder of the men's group. On behalf of the men's group, I would like to thank the board member, Ms. Cindy Marks, for extending an invitation to us to present to the group today. So I would like to thank you for that. The men's group is a group of African-American men that mentor and educate high school, that mentors and educate high school age African-Americans, males of Stanislaus County. Established in 2002, our goal continues to be to encourage students to stay in school, work to maintain academic excellence, make good decisions, pursue higher education. In 2006, we established the Saturday Leadership Academy, which is held once a year, January through May, and student recruitment occurs in November. Students attend a group orientation session to learn about the program. Applications are extended to the students, and they return the applications with a parental authorization form. Students are also interviewed as part of the selection process. We accept 16 students each year. Students study a curriculum that includes the importance of higher education, goal setting, value clarification, personal accountability, college planning, equity, money management, career development, time management, life planning, personal values, work ethics, citizenship, and critical thinking. Many of our workshops include guest speakers who are experts in their own right in their particular field, such as Dr. Jim Thrasher, California Teachers Association, Series Chief of Police Mark Collins, and Stanislaus Superior Court Judge Donna Reeves. Mr. Glenn Stovall, a program specialist from Modesto Junior College. We have taken the students on field trips to Sacramento State Capitol with the legislation, to meet with legislators. Is that time?
That is time. Please finish your thought, though.
Okay, and we take them to Sacramento, and they meet with legislators such as Dr. Shirley Weber, California's Secretary of the State. And with that, I just want to say that we're an ongoing group. We're going to be continuing to provide service to our young African American males. We have specifically chosen this population because of all the data and the research that's out there indicating that they have high dropout rates, that they are low in terms of entering universities and colleges, and other issues that allows them to be full citizens of the country. So with that, I'll bring it to a close and would like to say thank you for having us here, and thank you for taking an interest in our program.
Thank you very much.
And Madam Chair, may I make a comment? Just a brief comment. It's not on the agenda, but I'm just making a comment.
Yes.
I just wanted to thank you for coming. And I so appreciate, I wanted the board to be able to put a face with the name of the men's group because we see it on some of our agenda items. And I wanted the board to be able to see all of you since I got to meet you on Saturday. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come to our meeting tonight and to share all the information about the men's group. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fortuna, were there any comments from the public via email or voicemail for public presentation tonight?
Good evening. Yes, there are two comments. The first is from Mr. James Reese. He submitted this comment via email, and it's in regards to mask and vaccine mandates for fall 2021-22 school year. And the comment is as follows. We, as parents of 4 MCS children, are wondering if the district will be considering a mask or vaccine mandate for in-person learning this fall. We are opposed to both of these being imposed on our children. Multiple studies, such as the studies from MIT and the University of Louisville, show that masks and social distancing were ineffective at slowing or stopping the spread of COVID-19. The University of Louisville study also showed that prolonged mask use promotes facial alkalization, increases dehydration, increases headaches, and decreases cognitive precision. These masks also obscure nonverbal communication and interfere with social learning by distorting verbal speech and removing visual cues. Another study at the University of Florida showed that 5 of the 6 masks studied that were worn at school contained a host of dangerous pathogens. They included pneumonia, tuberculosis, meningitis, sepsis, E. coli, diphtheria, Lyme disease, and more. The children were not at risk from dying from COVID-19 any more than that of the common flu, but the risks stated above do pose a real risk to all of our children. If a mask or vaccine mandate is going to be considered, we must be notified now. If you do not know or are awaiting for guidance, you must pressure the powers that be to decide what their guidance will be. Either one of these mandates will be deal breakers for some parents, and those parents will need enough time to make other arrangements if either one of those mandates are imposed. Thank you, James Reese. The second comment was also submitted via email. No name was provided, and this is in regards to summer school. We enrolled our child in summer school course thinking instruction would be provided to learn concepts and complete assignments so that a semester grade could be raised. Instead, we learned after the first day that all work is online. Students are completing instructional modules on their own while the teacher sits at a desk not teaching. The modules aren't from the MCS curriculum. My child is more discouraged than ever, and I feel terrible. Friends in other MCS summer school classes report the same. No instruction by the teacher. Trustees and MCS administrators, please make sure, as we prepare for the 2021-2022 school year, that all MCS teachers are ready to deliver basic direct instruction by teaching, checking for understanding, reteaching, testing, and reteaching again as necessary. And that's the end of the second comment. There are no comments on any of the items on the agenda this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Fortuna. Thank you to everyone for taking your time to share your views with us this evening. We're moving on now to B1, which is a report on facilities, the summer work that's been going on. Mr. Zierle.
Good evening, President West, Board of Trustees. This presentation is actually a celebration of the detailed planning that has taken place over the last 12 months to get us to this point, as noted by Trustee Brown, who participated in our monthly construction meeting agendas. I have with me tonight Roger Orth, Senior Director of Maintenance and Operations, and Dwayne Wolterstorff, Senior Director of Planning and Facilities. Also joining us virtually is Kathy Domenico, our financial planner for our bond program and our facility projects for the district. And we're going to highlight our summer facility improvement projects. We would like to thank the board for their leadership of measures D and E and the overwhelming support that we received and continue to receive from our community. The purpose of tonight's presentation is to discuss our most recent bond issuance, our summer projects that are currently underway and being planned for measures D and E, district-funded summer projects, and the return of our end-of-summer facility tour that we had to postpone last year due to COVID, and then any questions that the board may have about our summer facility plans.
So the voters approved $74 million worth of bonds for Measure D and $57 million for Measure E. And we have already issued Series A and B. And with the bond interest rates being lower than expected, and also the growth in the tax base being higher than expected, the district should be able to issue bonds, the final remaining bonds, in the year 2023. That's 4 years earlier than originally planned. By issuing fewer bonds, we have lower issuance costs, which means we have more proceeds to spend on our projects. And also, earlier issuance of these bonds helps with keeping the construction cost escalation down. The first series of bonds, Series A, was $27 million combined between Measures D and E. This is the first bond sale that we had in 17 years. And at that time, we had an excellent credit rating of AA2. And we had an interest rate environment that was very favorable. And when you compare the terms that the board approved and compare those terms to when the bonds were actually sold, we were able to save the taxpayers $3.3 million in interest costs. So that's significant savings there. This past April, we were able to issue the second series of bonds, Series B. It was a $61 million bond package between D and E. We had a strong AA3 credit rating, which allowed us to have a good investor base that was interested in these bonds. Fact is, that was proved out on the morning of the bond sale, that we had 129 orders from 26 institutional investors, which allowed our underwriters to be able to negotiate lower interest rates with those, because we didn't have 129 orders to give out. And so when the board had approved the terms and we compared those to the final bond sale, we were able to save the taxpayers $6.9 million in interest costs. That's a phenomenal savings.
So to begin, we've part of our summer projects is our junior high science lab renovations, and you can see the schedule here in front of you for that. Whoops, let me see. I think I skipped the page. Let's go back. Sorry. This is our priority site construction schedule that the board had approved, and I'm going to let Roger Orth talk about this and the other construction slides.
Our clicker. Okay. Do you have the clicker, Dwayne?
I have it, Roger.
Okay.
I'll take it.
Okay, we'll start out with top of the list. We have the Fairview Cafeteria parking lot pickup with a 2021 start. The Shackelford Cafeteria is also a 2021 start. Fremont, you've probably heard about the Fremont master plan and improvements needed surrounding Fremont School. And Fremont School is planned for 2022, as is El Vista. And we have architects on board working diligently at these four sites. The other one is Tuolumne, which is a 2023 start at this point in time. And John Muir is also a 2023. And Franklin and Overwright are 2024. So I'll get into now more individual projects with these cafeterias and other projects. So Hanshaw is the 2021. We have 4 science labs, 4 junior high schools, four different projects. We're doing one a year, as you can see here. Hanshaw is the one that we're working on right now that we are kicking off this month, that you'll be hearing about in a minute. And the Loma is next year, the 2022. Then we're moving to Mark Twain, and then we're going to finish up at Roosevelt School in 2024. And Wilson is the one that probably has the most anticipation. It's been discussed for many years. And we are replacing the 1965 built portable cafeteria with a modular, stucco-sided, standing seam metal roof cafeteria building that will house all the students for assemblies, and it also has a stage and access control at the entry points. And you can also see the cost and the architect, and that is Tim Huff Architects and Acme Construction. And we bundled Wilson and Bret Harte together. As you can see, Bret Harte has the same architect, same construction firm, and this is a $5.4 million piece of this project. And Bret Harte, as we all know, 3 years ago, we had the fire in the middle of the wintertime. And we're now replacing this building with an 8,800 square foot building. It's going to end up with 6 learning spaces, a library, computer lab, professional development center, and we're nearing completion right now, as you can see. And moving on to Fairview Cafeteria, $8.3 million. This cafeteria is going to live in the middle of this campus, and we're staying in alignment and congruent with our master plans that we worked for over a year on at these first 8 school sites that we're doing cafeterias at. So Fairview will be in the middle quad. We're addressing another issue at Fairview with the pickup drop-off traffic area. And we have California Design West as the architect, Acme Construction. And we have our, as you can see, our DSA submittal. That's already occurred on June 10th. And our estimated start is August, and estimated completion is in the spring. And this has the same architect, the Shackelford Cafeteria. You can see the estimated cost is $7 million. California Design West, again, is the architect. Contractor is Acme Construction. And this is a 7,200 square foot building. Our DSA submittal date is July 8th, and project start is August. It's estimated at this point, and estimated completion is spring. Moves us to the Lakewood single entry point. So in the front of that campus, if you're familiar with Lakewood, it's rooms 31 and 32, which is historically was the computer lab, and it logically sits in the front of the site where you would want a front office. So that's where the design has occurred, and that project kicks off this month, and estimated completion is October of 2021, and you can also see the estimated cost at just north of $800,000. SKW, local architect, Mangeti Construction, is our contractor. Hanshaw Science Lab renovation, like we talked about earlier, you can now see the cost is $5.4 million. Derivi Castellanos, DCA, is the architect. We have Boyer Construction on board, and we are now we are coming out of DSA, and we're going to be starting this project. We're doing our kickoff meeting on June 28th, so we're going to have our pre-construction meeting. We have the principal and site staff that are available on board to get that project kicked off. And we do put a lot into our pre-construction meetings. They're a necessity for the contractor, but we're also, what we've done this last year, one change we've made is we are including the site administrators. It's for them, it's a kickoff of the project. They get to see that contractor and that architect face to face, and we get all the players in the same room as far as how that project's going to flow and how communication will flow and contact points and access, timing, and even we get into city ordinances on quiet hours, and we just go through lots and lots of details. So everyone's on the same page when these projects kick off. So that one is next Monday. Loma parking streetscape improvements. So this is one. This has been a lot of fun to design. You can see the price here, $5.1 million. Derivi Castellanos as the architect. Sinclair Engineering, their local firm. They are our contractor. And project start is this month. We've already broke ground out there, and estimated completion is September. And we're going to be improving all three of the four sides of this campus. The school frontage where Encina is will be the exclusively pickup drop off, and then when you get over to Conejo, that's exclusively bus pickup drop off. And Rosina on the west side is the staff parking lot, and that again will have staff only. Pedestrian access will be a gate code, so staff can move in and out of the campus in a secure fashion. We have a visitor parking lot out on the corner of Rosina and Encina. So visitors will flow through the single entry point that we did 2 years ago through the front office. So all these things are now coming together. The master plans, the district priorities, and you can start seeing it culminating. We had a lot of city intervention required to get approvals. So really it's district staff and also our local agencies. We're all working together the same direction. Tuolumne, the new STEAM building. So this is a 4,900 square foot building. It's got a 528 square foot outdoor maker space. So this lab, there's 2 classrooms, standard classrooms. It's all going to be polished concrete, but there's also an indoor maker space over 1,000 square feet with a roll-up door that moves. You can move in and out of an indoor-outdoor maker space. We also have an audiovisual space allocated, a conference area for planning. Restrooms, it was another site need. We try to check as many boxes as we can with these projects. And now we're starting to phase back. We were talking about the big capital improvement at Tuolumne. These things are starting to click together now as phases because we got the same architect on board. We're going to be back. So very exciting project at Tuolumne. You can see the $3 million estimate at this point, and we are working to get into DSA. We'll be starting this project in the fall. The temporary parking lot will be done this summer. That's bundled with the Loma parking lot that I talked about a minute ago. Estimated completion is next spring. On to district funded projects. Exterior paint for 6 school sites, playground installations at 4 elementary schools, the Davis Health Services Academy, which is in the back of the campus where the old 900 wing used to live, transportation department improvements, Johansen Fitness Center, which we renamed. We were calling it a weight room, and finally we evolved in this project. It needed to be a fitness center. Downey Cafeteria serving area, which we do 1 a year every summer, and also asphalt seal or repair / replacement. So painting projects this summer, and if you drive around in any of these 6 school sites, you will see the action right now. And we bundled these projects, as you can see, to where we don't have a bundle that's too large and overwhelming for a contractor. And we also use some geography there to where you see Davis and Beard and Sonoma El Vista, really for ease for our contractors. We want to help them through these projects and make sure that everything's perfect by August 9th. So you can see the 6 sites with Davis, Beard, Sonoma, El Vista, Fremont, and John Muir, and these projects are all underway, and we have a hard stop by July 31st on all these projects. Playground installations at 4 sites. You can see the 4 sites: Tuolumne, Insolent, Franklin, Robertson Road. Those are all kinder areas. No architect is needed. We do have a contractor on board, Park Planet. These are all 4 underway. Insolent's not too far from here. They have a beautiful one right in front of the campus where the kinder area is. It's a red one. We've inventoried all of our playgrounds, like we're trying to do a lot of other things. And we've inventoried 80+ playgrounds, and now we're on a cycle to make sure we address all these in a timely fashion. Davis Health Services Academy, like I said earlier, the old 900 wing, the $3.3 million cost estimate. This one's actually wrapping up. You see SKW again, Architects, and Boyer Construction. And this one was bundled with a transportation department project that you'll hear about in a minute. This project's on schedule. And this project also includes 4 learning spaces, and one of them is a combo, a mega classroom lab space, as well as what we designed this. We had numerous stakeholder meetings with the HSA teachers and principal at that site to make sure we're meeting all the needs of the students. So yes, transportation terminal renovations, the $3.8 million piece here. Again, this was the other half of SKW and Boyer's Davis HSA, or Health Services Academy project. This one's on schedule. We're actually working through punch items, which is final inspection details. And at this site, we have a beautiful bus wash that you're probably already hearing about. And what's exciting is this facility has really been needing some upgrades, which we've moved forward on. We still had old in-ground lifts. We've replaced those. We put in 5 new lifts, and these lifts range from 60 to 78,000 pound capacity for our 30,000 pound buses. So we want to make sure that we safely designed this. So we have now more lifts, better capacity, reliable lifts. Like I said, the bus wash, we have motorized roll-up doors, new air and lube system inside, a new gate on Carpenter Road, a much wider gate. So we did improvements inside and outside of this building. Johansen Fitness Center, $5.7 million project, PBK Architects. And this is, again, another fun project. You don't design these every day. So we have J&L Bray Construction on board, and we have yet to meet with them. We'll be meeting with them on July 7th to negotiate the guaranteed maximum price for this leaseback project. And estimated start is that same month of July, and estimated completion is spring of 2022. In this building, we've used BSN Sports, our local district provider of our athletic equipment, and we brought them on board. And we also have, as one of our stakeholders, the former Stanford strength coach, who is also the athletic director at that site. And we'll have Olympic weights. We're going to have a covered outdoor area, in addition to a 2,900 square foot indoor weight and fitness area and storage. We've also, this building doubles as the west wall of the swimming pool or fence. We're having some issues with the swimming pool fence, so again, checking as many boxes as possible and having this project help other parts of the campus. And other district funded improvements. You see the $1.4 million of re-roofing. We've inventoried all 3 million square feet of roofing in our district, and we've rated that roofing. We put in a new work order program, and now we've got all this data talking to each other and helping us make educated decisions on where we put our dollars for re-roofing. So these are the sites: Bret, Harte, El Vista, Sonoma, Mark Twain, Davis, and Downey. And the slurry projects, basically $2.8 million at Martone, Rose Avenue, and Enox. And this puts our district on the 8-year slurry plan to where you start to really get economy of scale on your side when you slurry and really forestall ever having to replace asphalt in our lifetimes. Same goes with our paint projects. Exterior paint, we're on a 10-year paint plan now, and dry rot repair, to where now we address the dry rot and paint our school sites every 10 years. Now we're staying ahead of it.
So Roger just did a great job of outlining all the detail of the various projects, and I think you can see why it takes 10 to 12 months. There's so much planning, so much detail, so much approvals that go into this before we ask the board to allow us to bid and then approve the bid. So there's a lot of information there, and it's a lot to cover in 20 minutes for a year's worth of planning. Now we get to look at some pictures, some highlights of the progress, and again, these this doesn't quite do it justice in many cases. It's showing a small picture on the screen, but we want to take the opportunity to highlight the work. In addition, around the room you have some architectural renderings. When you're free at the end of the meeting, you can go around and see the architect's vision of the project before it started. What you see here is the progress at Bret, Harte. And then Roger and I were fortunate. We just happened to be there the day that these walls were being raised. Roger talked earlier about, and we'll talk about, a modular construction. This is stick built. This is built from the ground up. And so you'll be able to see the difference in the two different types of construction. So on the left is the day they were raising the wall, and on the right is just a progress picture in the last month. So you can see the progress over a period of time. Again, additional progress. You can see how beautiful this building is going to look when the students come back to school in August. And these windows, this is a new feature of ours. You see the windows here, they are tinted. So you can see out from the inside, but you can't see in from the outside. We're interested to see how that responds to the teaching staff, the staff at Bret, Harte. This is our first attempt at this. And we believe it's going to provide necessary security for those inside the classroom without having to have the drapes or the blinds on the interior of the classrooms. This shows the progress of Wilson Elementary. And so this is different. This is what Roger was talking about as a modular building. And a lot of times when people think of modulars, you see our old modular buildings that are just kind of set there. They have the ramps on them. Well, that's not the case anymore. You can see the concrete foundation. This makes this, when it's built, it makes it function as a permanent building. When you see the progress on the right, the picture on the right, that is the building. And you can see it does not look like what people think are traditional portable or modular buildings for the progress there at Wilson. And this just is something we're proud of, and we're doing this whenever we can. We did it first at Robertson Road. We're doing it here at Wilson. We're doing it at Davis. You'll see pictures of Davis. But on the left is our standard chain link fence. So when we have an opportunity to do an improvement project at the school, we try to improve the fencing. And so on the right, you see our new standard for black wrought iron fencing around the perimeter of the school. You can just see the difference, not only the difference visually, but the fencing on the right is going to be a more secure fence for our students and our staff at Wilson Elementary School. Davis High School, these are just, again, these were taken about 3 weeks ago. Progress pictures at Davis High School, as Roger mentioned, the Health Services Academy. These are also modular buildings, much like you just saw at Wilson, but they have stucco. You can see the sloped roof. It looks like a permanent building. If you were to go out there without me showing you the pictures of the buildings being set, most people would not be able to say this is a modular classroom. This is a permanent building. This will last as long as some of our buildings that were built from the ground up. And we're very proud of this design, and which is why we're using it at other areas. Again, this just shows you the fencing that were installed around this project. Again, the standard of black wrought iron fence, and then this one has a rolling gate attached to it. This will be an electronic opening gate as well. So it will provide for access, large deliveries or trucks to the building or this part of the campus. progress on transportation, as Roger mentioned. What you see here are the new roll-up doors on the left. It's not a very attractive picture, but we were able to modernize the roll-up doors, electronic versions of it. And then the picture on the right with the bus in it, that was, there's a pit, there's actually a pit under that bus. And so that's where they would go to deep clean the underside of the bus. They would crawl down into the pit. Before it would open, it was open through the carpenter. So we enclosed it as part of this project, made it a little more enclosed area, work area for people to work on the buses. And then here is our bus wash, as Roger mentioned, something we're very proud of. It's much like you would take your car through. And so you can see the lights on the left side. It would be either green, yellow, or red for the driver to enter. And then this would be entering towards Carpenter. This particular, the one on the left and the one on the right, that is also looking through because Carpenter is in the background. So this is what the inside of it looks like, the inside of the bus wash. And then this is the Carpenter side. This would be the drying when the bus is washed. That would be what dries the bus. And then again, part of this project, I applaud Roger and Dwayne. We were able to revise our exit onto Carpenter. There's a rolling gate there, and we redid that area so our buses now have a much better path out to Carpenter as they exit this direction from the transportation yard. Okay, next steps will be, as I mentioned, our planned end of summer facilities field trip. We're very excited to be able to plan this again and bring this back after not doing it for a year. It is scheduled for August 2nd from 9 a.m. to 12:30. Again, and for those of you that were on it last time, we will begin at transportation at 9 a.m. And then we will return to the same area to see nutrition services. There's been some improvements for the processing at nutrition services that we're very proud of. I want the board to see that and community members that are on the trip as well. We will depart promptly at 9 a.m. So we'll want to make sure that we get there earlier. This will be a posted board meeting, so we'll have to call it to order, do the same thing we did in 2019. This will be a little different, and if you recall, 2019 we had a multitude of, that was the first year of the bond program, and we had a large number of quick strike projects that we wanted to show. We wanted to show the community, we wanted to show the board what we were doing with our first bond issuance that Dwayne talked about earlier. This time, as noted, we have less projects or more major infrastructure work going on. So we'll probably make less stops. We'll do some drive-bys for all the painting projects, the playgrounds that Roger talked about. But the major work that has been highlighted here, we want to give the board an opportunity to get out, walk, see what's going on, be able to ask questions, walk and talk. Roger has called it. So there may be less stops. But we want to spend more time. We want to spend more time at the areas that we think are important for the board to see and be able to ask questions on. So with that, that's the end of our presentation, and we'll answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was a great presentation, very informative, and I'm looking for lights. We'll start, I'm sorry. Ms. Chambers, did we have any comments from the public on this item? No, there were none. And none to be read from the public emails either. Okay, thank you. Now, questions or comments from any of the board members? Trustee Marks?
It was great to see all the pictures. Thank you for that. And the report just kind of giving us an idea of where all this funding is going and delineating between the bond funds and the Modesto City Schools funds to be able to work on the schools. So I appreciate that. That was really helpful. I wanted to find out, I noticed that Wilson and Shackelford are both doing cafeterias, but Shackelford was so much more than Wilson's. So it was like 2.5 or 2.6 million more. So I was just wondering why.
Sure, it's a larger cafeteria,
Okay.
bigger student body, and a lot more site work that's occurring around that school site. So, yeah, there's a lot of site work, fencing, asphalt repair. There's other items attached to that. So,
now, can you remind me where it's going? The cafeteria is at Shackelford.
it's in the back of the school.
Okay.
So it's straight back from the main classroom buildings
Okay. All right. I know.
toward the Family Learning Center in the back, just to the east of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I am excited for that. I know they are too. So that'll be great. Also, I had another question on, I noticed Loma, the start date was June, and then the estimated completion was September. I know for quite a few that was in the spring, but this one, I just was wondering how that was going to impact the start of school because it's the parking area and the streets. So I was kind of curious because that just is always challenging.
So we talk phasing plan during the development, and then we finalize it at that pre-construction meeting I'm talking about while we have the site stakeholders present. So we talk about site activities in the summer and, in this case, into the school year. And Sinclair is actually highly confident they're going to be done before the start of school, but projects are full of contingencies and unknowns when you start to dig into the earth. So we actually created a contingency plan, worst case scenario. If we get delayed on this project, we have a contingency plan, and we have it phased into 3 phases to where we'll still have location for parents to pick up, drop off, buses, and full access for all students and staff should the worst case scenario happen.
Okay. That's
Roger and Dwayne do a great job of planning for possible unknowns. It's always better for us to say September and then open in August than to say August and or oh wait, it's going to be September. So it's not like we're trying to fool anybody. It's just you don't know what's underground or what you're gonna account for. So they always build in a contingency, which is why you see a September estimate completion. Yeah. But we know students are coming back in August, and we'll meet that.
Okay, that's good. And then just one more comment on the, you call them modulars, but they're not exactly that. But I just am super excited that they're not the old style modulars and how they're, the ground has been prepared. I know we had a lot of, issues with them over the 20 years of their lifespan. And so it's really nice to see much higher quality building going in. For our staff and our students, not to deal with and I know we had to do the ramps later and all the things that had to happen at later dates for the last, over these last couple decades. So thank you for finding a new way to do that and for it to last longer and be more permanent. So thank you very much.
Trustee Brown?
Yes. The bus tour on August 2nd. We're all looking forward to that. That is a board meeting. I think the public might want to know who all will be invited. Are there public members that will be invited for that?
Yeah, Kristen Noonan in our communications department handled the last announcement, the flyer. We reviewed that last week. And that's our starting point for planning for this year. We definitely want to invite members of the public that have an interest in our bond program, our facilities. So it'll look a lot like it did in 2019 as far as who we reach out to in the community to attend, in addition to the board members and staff. But Kristen Noonan in the communications department will handle that outreach for us.
Thank you. Vice President Lopez.
I had a question in terms of the bond money. Is it safe to say that in between the 2 series that we had, we saved the taxpayers about $10.2 million?
Yes, that is true. That is true, and as Dwayne pointed out, that means more dollars of the bond that we can allocate to facilities instead of interest costs. Yeah, so that is correct. It's awesome. The difference between what we're estimating when we asked the board to authorize a bond issuance versus what the final sale became. And we were very pleased that day, Dwayne and I and other members of our team were following along with the bond sale, and we were very happy with the results that were coming in. So yes, that is correct.
That's great. That's great.
Thank you. I don't see hands from our members on Teams. So if you do, just let us know if you do have a question or comment. I'd like to also commend the members of the team for saving us that amount of money. It's very refreshing to, instead of being asked for more money, to being told, hey, we've saved this money and now there's so much more money that can go to benefit our students. So we really appreciate that. I drive by the Loma site several times a day. It's on my way in and out of the neighborhood. And wow, that is a big construction site right now. Everywhere you look, big holes dug up and fencing all around it. And I'm excited to see how it's going to turn out. But they are in the thick of things. They're out there working really, really hard. I love the wrought iron fencing that you have provided at Wilson and Davis. It makes such a big difference, I think, for our students and staff and parents to drive up to a school. It just shows a pride of ownership to me that wrought iron is just sending out a message of you're worth it. You know, I don't know, it's just a subtle difference, but I feel like it makes a big difference in the look of the school. So thank you so much for doing that. I'm excited about the field trip, and I know Ms. Noonan is going to be working on that list. I read recently that there's a new journalist that's going to be working on education for the Modesto Bee. I don't remember her name, but I read that she's going to be doing a lot of articles on education for the Bee and for our community. So I would just like to suggest maybe we invite her along on that trip as well. And Trustee Brown has another question or comment?
Yes, with regard to the savings, Dr. West, if you'll recall some of the meetings that we had with the public, that was one of the biggest concerns of our constituents, was how much of the bond money was actually going to be spent on financing. And I really hope that we can somehow publicize how effectively we've been using the public funds. That will help us as we move forward into our next consideration for a bond measure.
I agree. Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you. Seeing no other lights, thank you, gentlemen, so much for this wonderful report. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on now to item B2, and this is an approval of agreement with Terrace Barnes Walters Boynian Health Company, Incorporated, for general obligation bond consulting services. Mr. Zierli.
Yeah, so we talked about the highlights of the elementary bond measures, D&E, and the great work that we're doing for our students and for our community. And at the time we passed, or we went out with the elementary bond measure, we had to decide, do we do just elementary? Do we do elementary and high school? And the board rightfully chose the elementary program and addressing the facility needs at our elementary schools. As you see, and as we like to highlight, we provide a substantial amount of dollars to our high schools, which are not funded by Measures D&E. And we're proud of that, and we're thankful for that. But it's very limited to what we can do annually with 7 high schools versus what we can do at our elementary schools with an effective bond program. And so there's been discussion as to what about our high schools. We don't know what the community feels, what our high school voters feel about our high schools and how they would support, or whether they would support a bond measure. So we were asking the board for us to re-engage with a very integral part of our bond planning team, Terrace, Barnes, Walters, Boyan, and Heath, or better known as TBWB. That's what I like to call them. So from now on, when I say TBWB, that's what I'm referring to. They provided a ballot measure electoral feasibility for our elementary program. If you recall, they surveyed our voters, what our voters would be interested in. Initially, they came back with about a 72% approval rating, support rating, and we actually got closer to 75%. So they understand our community. They understand our needs, they understand our district, and we would like to, in order to properly plan for a potential, and I say potential, we're not there yet, a high school bond measure, we would ask that TBWB again provide us assistance in public outreach, electoral feasibility, and communication consulting services for a potential 2022 high school bond measure. And it's recommended that the Board of Education approve the agreement with TBWB for general obligation bond campaign services.
Thank you, Mr. Zierle. Ms. Chambers, do we have any comments from the public, either in person or via email or voicemail? No. Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Brown?
I wholeheartedly support this selection, having worked with this firm in the previous bond measure. They not only helped us with that initial information, but helped us utilize that information in addressing the needs of the district as we went after the voter support. And so I know that they do excellent work and that they became very good partners with us in making sure that the bond passed.
Thank you. Trustee Marks?
Yes, I plan to support this. I just had a question. When does our previous bond expire? I couldn't remember what year. I know we did it for Enoch's and Grigori high schools, and we put in some junior high funding to those. Do we know? I'm just because the timing of it might affect the voters.
I don't know if Kathy's still on. I don't know if you know the answer to that or not. I know our last bond measure was 2001 for the high school and the elementary, but I don't know. Dwayne may have the answer, or Kathy, one of the two.
I just can't remember.
I don't have the answer off the top of my head, but I can look it up because I'm right in front of my computer unless Dwayne knows the answer.
May have it. Each bond is 30-year bonds.
Okay.
And so the first one was issued in 2019, so it's 30 years from there.
No, the original, the initial.
Oh, the 2001 bonds?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Those were 25-year. They were, and so they're coming, they were issued in 2002, and so in 2027, they'll be coming due. For both elementary and high school.
Yeah, I didn't know for the public when we look at this, and I'm sure that's a question that will be on the survey about the public's thoughts on that, because those in the high school district and elementary district are paying for 2 bonds right now. So I didn't know if they'd want to.
Absolutely, and the feeder districts, and keep in mind the feeder districts may have some bond measures as well. So it could be confusing to our stakeholders, but that's part of the work that they do. And again, they know our community and they know.
I was really appreciative because last time when we did the 2001, whoever did that one went through really well, and the public overwhelmingly supported the 2 new high schools and some extra for the junior highs. And then we also, when we did this one, and I thought the junior highs, but we just did high school, I remember, because anyway, we did a few labs and things at some of the schools and upgrades. But the last time when we did this, the public supported it really well, and I know it was a lot of effort because Mr. Brown was on that and Mr. Lopez helping get the word out. And then now as the public is seeing what's happening with the bond money, it's really sent a good message that things are being done, and they're very pleased with what they see at the campuses. I mean, I hear it all the time. So it's really been great for people to drive by and see all the construction work that we've done, the painting, just everything that they've seen. So that will help. And then if we can get the message out, like Mr. Brown said, on the savings that we've done with the interest rate, and that being able to use that at our school sites is really helpful too. So thank you. Thank you for staying around so we can answer those questions.
Seeing no other questions or comments from any of the board members, I I also am going to support this. I felt like this group, TBWB, did a really excellent job at collecting accurate data that helped us with our decisions to move forward with the last bond. I just had a quick question. What is the approximate cost for this service?
It is $67,850.
Okay. All right, thank you. So I'm looking now for a motion to approve the agreement with TBWB Health Incorporated for general obligation bond consulting services. Moved by Vice President Lopez and seconded by Trustee Brown. Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Irvin.
Did you have a question or?
Trustee Irvin, were you just seconding this motion?
Yes, I was seconding the motion.
Okay, loud and clear. Okay, thank you. So moved by Trustee Lopez, Vice President Lopez, seconded by Trustee Irvin. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? See none, the motion carries unanimously.
So Trustee Mejia texted and said he approves.
Okay, thank you. Via text. Thank goodness for technology, right? All right. We are moving on now to item B3, and this is the approval for the proposal for Davis Demographic Student Forecasting and High School Boundary Study. Mr. Zierle, it's you again.
Yes, thank you, President West, trustees. As you know, Modesto City Schools is uniquely challenged in our organization. We have 8 K-8 school districts that feed into our 7 comprehensive high schools. The best I can tell, the last time a high school boundary study was looked at was the year 2012. And we are asking for Davis Demographics to assist us with this by using real up-to-date student population data that will create custom data sets, giving us insight into our students and our schools. Boundary adjustments, they do involve lines on a map, but the process requires a great deal of analysis at the start for planning purposes. The first phase would begin this summer to obtain an up-to-date student forecasting model and demographic study that will guide administration and the board and the community with any future redistricting conversations. I have 2 gentlemen, Ken Ward and David Cates, with us virtually from Davis Demographics that can answer any questions that the board may have about the process. But it is recommended by staff that the Board of Education approve the proposal for Davis Demographics Student Forecasting and High School Boundary Study.
Thank you, Mr. Zierle. Ms. Chambers, do we have any comments from the public in person or via email or phone? No, there were none. Okay, thank you. Comments or questions from the board? We will start with Trustee Brown.
Question about the methodology, and I want to find out how much consideration will be given to some of the projects that have recently been announced within the community. We know that the Tivoli project may come forward within the next few years. We also know that Crossroads 2 in the Riverbank area is under construction, will be feeding our high schools, and we've read in the newspaper about a major project that is also anticipated for Riverbank. So how will that affect our boundary study as we look at future development?
Yeah, did you hear that, gentlemen?
Want me to take that?
Please.
Tim?
Please.
I'm David Cates. Been with the company since inception, 28 years, and I oversee the production in our company as well. So I'll be overseeing this project. To answer your question, we go through an extremely detailed process of looking at, first of all your development. We meet with The city's involved, the county planning departments. We track all the current, the active, and even future projects that are potentially coming online. We use a 7-year window as our time frame for 7 consecutive years of a forecast. So this is one of our specialties that we really, if need be, even make visits out there to see the progress of certain projects. We have up-to-date aerial imagery with historical data so we can see the most recent trends and the absorption of new housing over the last number of years. Our methodology, I mean, it's pretty detailed, but we not just take the development, we apply either what's called student generation rates or student yield factors to estimate the students that would be coming out of those. We collect all of your student data in your feeder districts. So we'll have essentially the K-12 counts the last 4 years, and like I said, looking out the next 7. We track, we are gonna be looking at other factors. We look at incoming kindergartners based on historical birth rates. Obviously, we just got through this COVID year, which has been a challenge for anyone to do any forecasting. So we'll get to see if your younger grades are rebounding. But we're really mostly focusing on your last 4 years of data. We also look at the migration of students in and out of your district in different parts of your neighborhoods. And we lastly break your district up into what we call study areas, or there are small planning areas like neighborhoods. I can't tell you right off the top of my head how many we'll wind up doing for your district, but I think if you have like 50,000 kids collectively, K-12, our rule of thumb is usually about an average of 100 K-12 students per area. So there could be, at least, hundreds, maybe 500 or so of these neighborhoods. And these become the building blocks of your current and historical student counts and a forecast for each of those areas for 7 years. So when we're helping you with your redistricting, we can literally get down to those neighborhood areas. And if you could imagine each of your high school boundaries being a certain color, we can readjust the boundaries with the forecasted student data to be able to look at not just what's there now to better balance your high schools to their capacities, but be able to look into 3, 5, 7 years into the future, because you don't want to have to be going through this process very often. You want to make sure these boundaries kind of stick for a while. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Vice President Lopez?
Yes, a question for either David or Ken. How important, or what percentage would you say that qualitative data is used into your final assessment in regards to maybe cultural boundaries specifically talking about cultural boundaries that might be present disregarding numbers of populations?
Are you talking about for the adjusting of the boundaries?
Yes.
Okay. Well, again, we typically are to lack of a better word, a tool or an assistant to your boundary committee process. So we're whoever you put on your committee or your group that decides these potential boundaries. We provide the data necessary to answer any question, any kind of socioeconomic data, not to mention the student data, current and future counts. I'm not from Modesto, I'm in Southern California, but I do this work all across the country. We rely on the district staff, local stakeholders to provide any things that we are not aware of. We're not there, as in Davis, to tell you what your boundaries should be. We're there to assist you, and like I said, give you the tools using our software and our knowledge and our data in the background there to help you, look at those, as you mentioned, cultural or enclaves or certain types of parts of your community. That's what the stakeholders are there for, whether it be principals or public or parents to help us in the whole process, determine what would be your best boundaries.
Thank you.
Dr. Noguchi?
I have a question for Trustee Mejia. I want to ask if they're considering how bringing commuter train that will be coming into the downtown will have an impact. So the question being a commuter train, will you consider the impact on enrollment at the high schools?
Well, and obviously, as I mentioned before, we will be speaking with your city planning and the county planning, and they're the ones that really know the most about that happening, when that would happen, when it'd be completed. If it's going to happen and be completed during the 7-year time window we're looking at, things like that could trigger additional development. When certain infrastructure goes in, that could already start projects that might not have happened unless things like that came in. So it's more of an indirect impact, but if it's going to happen during the lifetime of our study, then definitely we would have to do our best guess, estimate if that triggers new development or influx into your community. We all know that in the last year, there's been a lot of movement, or there's been a movement, not just in California, all across the country, from people that have jobs that they can do remotely. They want to leave the expensive apartment rents or mortgage prices in the cities and maybe move out to the more affordable areas. And that's probably already been happening in your community. You're more affordable compared to, let's say, the Bay Area. So those kind of trends, if we catch those, especially if those major transportation improvements happen, could definitely expedite maybe some more people and development happening in your district.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustee Brown?
Yeah, one other concern that exists already in our district and will be exacerbated by the new growth that I talked about is that typically our growth happens to the north, and our population base that is not well located for our existing high schools is to the south. And we've got big challenges that happen with busing that's necessary to bring that student group to a high school. Does your study help us look at the need of that southern base of strong southern base of students who are not close to a high school? And do you make recommendations that could be influential in our possibly our bond issue to help us look at building a campus that's close to our current need?
Yeah, definitely. Because one thing I did not mention is probably in our proposal, if you look through it, we use behind the scenes, if you will, what is called a GIS, or Geographical Information Systems. We've been using this since our inception almost 30 years ago, and we're kind of in the leaders of using this in planning for public school districts who are our only clients. So everything we do is geographic in nature. Not only do we have a lot of data and charts, but we specialize in maps and knowing where your pockets of growth or decline, because you could have a whole other section of your district or your county that's aging out, whereas you have another part that's, as maybe in the younger grades, K through 3, you're seeing a resurgence. Now that won't hit the high schools for a while, but in our study, in the 7-year window, you'll see, let's say if there's what we call a bubble moving through your elementary and middle schools that will eventually hit your high schools. So yeah, when you look at what we present in our document, in our final study, you'll see the pockets of growth and decline. We have a very informative, I guess you could say, page or pages in our report referred to as an attendance matrix. And what this will show for your high schools is when you read down the columns, you'll see your enrollment counts you're all familiar with. But when you read across the rows, you'll get to see the transfers of students of where they're choosing, or parents are choosing to send their kids. They might not all be going, a certain percentage are leaving a certain school zone going to another school for reasons, different reasons. As far as busing and how you adjust the boundaries, that's more of a policy-driven decision that staff or the committee would have to decide. It's not something that we really get involved in, but we do provide data that would make more informative decisions. You would get to see, again, you might be surprised when you looked at a certain percentage of your enrollment in a certain high school comes from a completely different part of your district. Because if you just look at the enrollment, it kind of hides the geographic aspect. And when we do our studies, a lot of these trends that have been going on maybe for a number of years becomes very apparent. And that I believe, and we've been doing this for so long, it really helps you make, like I say, informed decisions.
Trustee Marks?
So when will we be able to see this data? If we approve this tonight, how soon will we find out what the suggestions are?
Well, in the document, and if you looked at it, we had a couple of timelines in there. And the way we're hoping, if all goes well, and hopefully you do approve us to do this work, we're hoping to get started right away in early July. We would request from your district and your feeder districts your current years, or the one that just finished, your 2020-21 school year data, and the previous 3 years of data. We go through a process we call geocoding, which is mapping where your students are. And just to give you an idea what that process is, all of you do this every day and you don't even realize it. When you use your phones or in your cars, you punch in an address and how to get to from point A to point B as quickly as possible. You're geocoding, you're mapping where you're going to go, and then the system tells you the best path to take in the shortest amount of time. We do a similar behind the scenes setup with the data. So you can see all your dots of where your kids are now in the past 4 years. Once you receive the data, we could do that type of work on it, the geocoding, then that we really get moving along with the development information and the deep analysis. It takes us, if we receive the student data in a timely manner, roughly about 3 months to really compile good data to share with you, because since we haven't worked with your district before, we're having to really put together very specific data sets to your communities. If we had already worked with you before, like previous years, we would just be updating maybe 1 year's of data and things like that. So we have to track all the development. It takes a lot of time. So realistically, if we start in July, we receive all the data that we request in a timely manner. We're hoping probably by, let's say, September, late August, we're providing you some draft information that staff will review. We'll go through it together. And once we wrap it into a report, share it with the board. But during this time, it could also be, you could be starting the redistricting or boundary committee process, and we can then use that data as our foundation to be able to get the ball rolling on that process, which takes several months as well.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other lights or questions, I appreciate all of the information. Most of my questions have already been answered. I just want to make a statement that this affects a lot of people's lives in a very deep way. And so I want to make sure that if we do this, that we make sure that our committee has representation from all of our stakeholder groups. I just think it's important that that we have a lot of communication with the people whose lives could be impacted down the line. So, but I appreciate all of the information that you've given us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee
yes,
Mejia
Dr.
wants
Noguchi?
to make a motion.
Mejia would like to make a motion to approve this?
Yes,
Okay, so this is moved by Trustee Mejia and seconded by Trustee Marks. All those in favor, say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay and raise your hand. Trustee Irvin, you're voting no on this one, is that correct?
No, I voted aye. I was raising my hand and.
Okay.
Okay. This was a delayed response in the hand raising.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to clarify. Again, any nay? Dr. Noguchi, you have your light? No? Okay. All right. So it looks like there are no nays, and so this passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you very much for that presentation.
Thank you. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. B5, we're moving on, which is the report on local indicators, and this is Mr. Hurst.
B4.
Oh, did I skip one? Oh, I'm so sorry. B4, the approval of services agreement between Modesto City Schools and Clarity AVL, Inc. for purchase of goods and services for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. Mr. Selkin.
All right. Good evening, President West and Board of Trustees and Superintendent Noguchi. First, just kind of a note for the public that there is some additional text in one of the slides. It's in blue. It's actually the first slide. So for today's presentation, overall, I think you've all experienced our boardroom system. So we did look at presenting a different system for you. This is a 10-year-old system. So in a few seconds here, I'll turn over to my colleague, Mr. Luna, that will go through some technical details and some features that we're specifically going to have in the new system. But the idea of this presentation is share the features that recommended and make a request to the board to forward for this purchase from this company. So if you look at the next slide after this one, you'll look at the district goals, what it aligns with. First, increasing academic achievement, because if we're more effective and efficient with technology at the board meeting, as well as providing and ensuring a district-wide communication system. So part of the fact is the public does look at these board meetings, so this will be an effective and efficient system. So at this point, Mr. Luna will go through what we've been experiencing, why refresh, and some of the features of the new system that we're going to be recommending to you.
Good evening. So I'm going to start with why refresh. So currently, we're going to go through a quick history lesson. So our audio system and visual system here is 7 to 10 years old, which in technology is years, many, many years. We don't have currently no vendor or warranty support here. Remote attendees, Teams, Zoom, any of that, that integration is not fully vetted by the system. Oh, a little bit higher. There we go. And our biggest issue is the expandability. Right now, we currently cannot expand any more mics, and I know that's huge for us. We really want to add additional mics, and so that's the driving force behind this. So what we did is we met with 3 audiovisual specialists. We met also with a group of stakeholders. We presented our issues and the features that we were looking for to integrate into our system. With that, they were able to make recommendations on how we would refresh this system and to future-proof it for the next 8+ years. The current system issues, again, as we touched upon, we don't have a top-level way of muting mics. We want to be able to assist you guys as much as possible. Having those features behind our desk over here allows us to help you guys out as much as possible. Also eliminating any sort of audio feedback that you may experience. Some of the issues we handle behind the scenes, you would never see that. Some of the stuff you guys heard the feedback and anything like that. Current integration, again, Teams does not integrate well with our current system. We've made it work, but we'd really like a fully vetted system. Again, microphones, huge issue with us. We'd like to provide everybody with the wireless microphone. And warranty, having warranties. In the event that we have an issue, having somebody we can call, an expert that can help us out with that would be tremendous. So new system features. So some of the items, again, we want to give you the ability to mute all mics as well as us if need be. Live mic indicator, so a microphone that has a light on it that helps you guys identify when that mic is on. Expanding wireless mics again. Remote attendees, being able to bring in people from afar into the boardroom, let them see and hear everything that's happening in here. Built-in automation. A lot of the things that we do right now are manual adjustments. Current standards are a lot of automation where if feedback is heard, it actually automatically adjusts that. So don't have to worry about that.
Perfect example earlier, we had a physical cable that got disconnected. You couldn't tell by looking at it until you go over there and plug it in. So this will be a software-based system, which that's what 21st century is about. So
totally. Again, upgraded mics for your guys' desks there. A couple different options with the queue system and just enhancements across the board. And again, future-proofing us for another 10 plus years. I mean, we really want a bulletproof system that's going to help us just get through anything we need to get through. So, so our IETS recommends the implementation. The system proposed by Clarity AVL, hardware is $94,000. The implementation consultants, $14,800, not to exceed $109, encumbered with CARES funds. And again, a special thanks to our stakeholders for taking time away from their busy schedules to help us out. Some of them are in this room. And again, we just really want to build a solid system for the district. So looking forward to it. And any questions?
Thank you. Ms. Chambers, do we have any comments from the public on this item?
No, there are none.
Thank you. We're looking now for questions or comments from the board. Vice President Lopez?
Thank you. Mr. Luna, welcome to the presentation circuit.
Thank you.
My question was, is there conversations around around visual voting? So I know that there's a lot of other entities or government entities that do, when they do the voting in their podiums, it's virtual. They click on button and it shows up on the screen. Is there conversations around that, or are we?
There is. So the system that we're looking at, expandability is huge on there. You know, in the event if we ever wanted to add 100 mics, it's possible. Right now, our system is very limited. So starting off with a solid foundation, a solid base, will allow us to expand on that. And that is one of the items that we did discuss.
it's not part of the base price. This was kind of like phase one, and as you guys get used to the new system, then there'll be other features we'll add over time.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, I know that when I came here, we all had binders, so we've moved a long way, but I'm excited.
Thank you. Trustee Brown.
I'm curious where the vendor would be coming from. Is it local support, or where
this particular vendor is from Sacramento. Unfortunately, Modesto doesn't really have that many local vendors like directly here in the city, but relatively close would be Sacramento.
We focus specifically on those that have board meeting system experience, both in K-12 and other government agencies.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Trustee Marks?
Well, it's always fun to see upgrades. I always enjoy it. And just to give you a trek back in time, before we built this room, we were in the brick building in a very small room that fit about 16 people. And we used cassette tapes. Wow. And they had to be put in and taken out. And if somebody wanted a copy, they had to wait while the cassette tape would play through for them to get a copy of the board meeting. So it's awesome. And then you adapted so well last year with the teams and just being able to get online for the public, which was, we were all challenged in many ways. So I thank you for that. I know that was, first we were not in the boardroom, and then we came back, and then we had to try to do it remotely. So I know it's been a lot of adaptations this year with a very ancient technology system. So I look forward to seeing what the new systems are and what their capacity is, and then how we had to separate us and not have the mics. It's been really challenging. So I'm glad we're looking into this. I'm glad we can use CARES dollars. So that's really great.
Agree.
Trustee Marks, I think you might have just dated yourself. Vice President Lopez, do you need to know what a cassette tape is? We could explain that to you.
I know what they are.
Okay. Tonight we've had a lot of technical glitches, so this is a perfect night to hear this presentation. I don't think you guys specifically jinxed everything, but it will be great to upgrade this. I'm very, very happy to hear this presentation. Seeing no other questions or comments from the board, I'm looking for a motion to approve this. Vice President Lopez, and seconded by Trustee Marks. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed, raise your hand and say nay. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on now to B5, which is the report on local indicators. And this is going to be Mr. Hurst.
I was going to say, if you really want to date yourself, you would have said 8-track. And I remember that, so I guess I'm dating myself. So, good morning, or good evening, I guess it is now. I don't know, it's been a long day. My name is Steve Hurst. President West, board members, Dr. Noguchi, and a few members of the cabinet. We're here today on the annual report of local performance indicators. And yep, there we go. All right, so the purpose today is to provide the Modesto Board of Education with the required annual report, an update on the local performance indicators as they are reported on the California School Dashboard. And the local indicators measure district progress against the specific LCFF requirements in the LCAP plan. So these, all of these indicators actually, because they are part of the LCAP, align directly with our goals that, as you notice, and we'll present here a little bit on the LCAP again, and we did before. So they meet all the goals specifically, and within them there are 8 different indicators. So California has their 8 indicators that they have identified. Each of those indicators must show up in your LCAP plan. But in addition to that, the state board approved standards for the local indicators that support our local education agencies or our districts, in other words, in measuring and reporting their progress within the appropriate priority areas. And for each local indicator, the approved standard includes measuring progress on a local indicator based on locally available information and reporting the results to the governing board at a regularly scheduled meeting of the governing board, to stakeholders, and through the California Data Dashboard. For each applicable indicator, districts must assign one of 3 performance levels, either met, or not met for 2 or more years. Local indicators that we have to report on include basic services and conditions, implementation of state academic standards, parent engagement, school climate, and access to a broad course of study. So taking a look at the first indicator, this relates to state priority 1, which is basic services and conditions. It addresses the appropriateness of teacher assignments, access to curriculum aligned to instructional materials, and that our facilities are safe, clean, and functional. This information is already collected currently through the school accountability report cards and reported annually through that. As you can see, Modesto City Schools met this indicator in all areas. The next indicator is the implementation of state academic standards as it relates to state priority number 2. School districts use a state-supplied rubric to gauge their success in implementing curriculum that is aligned to the adopted standards in all content areas. And so using this rubric, we filled it out. Modesto City Schools has met this indicator. The next area is parent engagement as it relates to state priority number 3. School districts must provide a narrative summary of their progress towards seeking input from parents and guardians in school and district decision making, and they must promote parental participation in programs. Modesto City Schools administers an online survey each year. This year it was done online, but we have been administrating surveys each year to our families. And information from this survey is used also in the development of our LCAP. Based on the feedback from this survey, Modesto City Schools met this indicator. The next indicator is school climate, and this relates to state priority number 6. And school districts must provide, again, a narrative summary of a local administration and analysis of a climate survey that captures a valid measure of student perceptions of school safety and connectedness. And this must be done in at least one grade level within the grade spans. So typically your grade spans would be K through 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12. So each year, Modesto City Schools does administer a survey to our students. This year we did an online survey for students in grades 3 through 12. An example of this type of survey is like your Healthy Kids survey that can be put out. Based on the information from this survey, we also take that into account as part of our LCAP development, and the information in this survey indicates that Modesto City Schools met this indicator. So access to a broad course of study relates to state priority number 7. And school districts, again, must annually measure their progress to the extent to which students have access to and are enrolled in a broad course of study that includes the courses of study that have been adopted by the California Education Code for grades 1 through 6 and grades 7 through 12 as applicable to the student, including the programs and services developed to provide services to unduplicated students and individuals with exceptional needs. And so if you recall, our unduplicated often are our low income students, socioeconomically disadvantaged students, could be our English learners, our students with special disabilities. Those type of people have to be indicated in this survey. We did administer this survey as it was developed in the LCAP. Again, we looked at that. Modesto supports, our LCAP supports many of the offered broad course of study, thinking of things like our dual language program, the International Baccalaureate program that we have at the school, advanced placement courses, the Language Institute, all of the remediation courses that we have, and our enrichment courses that we have out there. When you look at that, we also look at our master schedules on a regular basis, adjust our staffing as necessary, and make faculty and facility changes as necessary to ensure that students have access to the broad course of study as in compliance with Ed Code. Based on the information that we have in this area and the actions that we've taken, Modesto City Schools meets the indicator as required by the state. When you look at the state dashboard, and this is kind of an example of what the state dashboard looks like, but this is specifically designed for the local indicators, Modesto City Schools has met all 5 of the local indicators as outlined, and what will be reported to the California dashboard when it has to be reported in October, when we have to enter the information for that. And with that, if there's any questions, I will take them.
Thank you, Mr. Hurst. Ms. Chambers, do we have any comments from the public on this item?
No, there are none.
Thank you. Comments or questions from the board on this item? Trustee Marks?
I see there's 8 priorities. Are they still adding them each year? I know we had some that they were adding, so we only have to report on 5?
Yeah, actually, in reality, there are 10 indicators. Unfortunately, well, fortunately for us, 2 of them we don't have to report on at all because they are designed for the county offices of education, which is 9 and 10. Of the 8 indicators, 5 of them, there's a feeling that they are not always adequately reported within your LCAP results because the other ones are so much more focused on student achievement data that therefore the state has decided that you have to report out on these separately as also give them the information for the California dashboard. If you want to know it, I can give them to you if you like.
Well, yeah, I was just wondering since there are, well, 8 of them and we only are required to report on 5. Is that correct? Did I hear
that
correctly?
That is correct.
Okay.
So priority 4, 5, and 8, which are related to pupil outcomes and pupil engagement, are not required to be reported in this manner. They're as part of the LCAP reports of outcomes in an LCAP.
Okay, and those are the ones that come out in October, like you said, and they'll be on that colored chart that has all the colors red.
Yeah, we're required in October to report them to the California dashboard as part of their reporting requirements. The dashboard obviously is kind of in a suspension status right now and going through some revisions, so the likelihood of these being put on the dashboard will actually be pretty small, I would say, right now based on the circumstances, but under the current guidelines in the state ed code, we are required to report each year.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further questions or comments, this was a report and approve.
Oh, I thought
No, this one's just a report.
just a report.
So this was a report. B5 was a report, and then B6 is the approval. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry
all
about
right.
that.
So that was a report, and we're going to move right into the next part, B6, and this is you, and I think this is where we're going to be looking for approval. Do you have anything to report on this?
Yes, so again, tonight we're here for the approval of the 21-24 Modesto City Schools Local Control and Accountability Plan. As I reported at the June 7th public hearing, the LCAP is a 3-year plan that describes our goals, actions, services, and expenditures to support positive student outcomes that address the state and local priorities. As we just talked about previously, there are 8 priorities for which the state has us to include, and we must present the local indicators at a regular scheduled meeting, which we just did, as part of the process of adoption of the LCAP. The LCAP is aligned with the 5 Modesto City School strategic goals that were established over the last 3 years and have been guiding our district. Again, it was developed through a collaborative process with involvement from various stakeholder groups, the input from the LCAP advisory, the DLAC committee. Both of them have reviewed and provided input to this plan. Again, the plan was also additionally reviewed by the Stanislaus County Office of Education to make sure that we had all the elements we might need for compliance. And then we had community input at our public hearing. We have made a couple minor revisions from what was presented at the LCAP community hearing, in that we added a couple of specific metrics related to dropout rates, expulsion rates, and Williams Act compliance to the LCAP plan. Again, as I said, it does address all of the 5 strategic goals with actions and services. Just to highlight a few of them again for you is it does have support for both STEAM and STEM in it, full day kinder and TK, has a huge increase for MTSS, or multi-tiered system of support. We have a big focus on equity with the PD part of it for our staff and our teachers, professional development for our leadership, technology support, as we've just been talking about, different things that we need to do for technology, keeping our schools safe. We have focus on facilities, focus on recruitment and retention, and obviously making sure that we are fiscally sound in operation. This LCAP plan that you have does include all the proposed expenditures related to these actions and services, and does correlate with the budget adoption that would be following this presentation and approval. And at this time, we're requesting the board to approve the Modesto City Schools 21 through 24 Local Control and Accountability Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Hurst. Ms. Chambers, do we have any comments from the public at this time? Any questions or comments from the public on item B? I'm sorry, from the board on item B6? See none.
John.
Trustee Irvin, you have a question or comment?
Yes, I just wanted to say, with the reporting of the goals and objectives with the LCAP, is there going to be any consolation, given that we've been in a pandemic, of holding districts accountable to achievement that wasn't able to be achieved under the circumstances that we were in, or are we being held accountable for regardless?
So with the goal section of your local control and accountability plan, you have 2 parts to this plan. You do have to report out on your previous plans and the goals and metrics that were assigned to that. And as always, it's not necessarily are you not meeting them. It's a matter of what did you meet? If you didn't meet them, what were the circumstances, and how are you adapting your plan and changing your plan, because this is a continual work in progress to make sure that you're moving your district forward. There has been some hold harmless in the sense of things like attendance, reporting, knowing that there was no CAS data, for example, for last year at all, and this year has obviously been impacted by what's happened. So in that sense, no, there is not any negative consequences right now to what we're reporting on our outcomes, other than we need to report our actual, what we did, what we were able to do, and what was impacted, which we have done within the plan for the outcomes part of it. And then that also should then factor into what the goals that we put together and the actions and services as we move forward to address some of the struggles and challenges that we've had this year, as well as going forward to address some of those.
Right. Okay. And one last question. So, what year are we in this current LCAP?
So the approval that we're asking for tonight is for the 1921 through 2021 through 2024 LCAP. So this, with approval, we would be in our base starting year, and we would now have a 3-year LCAP, and over the next 3 years, we would need to report outcomes on services, actions, and expenditures each year as an outcome on that plan. 3 years from now, we would then have a new plan that would be completely brand new for a 3-year cycle at that point. In between, we would make revisions as necessary based on the outcomes and the actions that we see.
Okay.
So what you have in front of you is actually a 5-year review, because it's looking back for 2 years and looking 3 years in the future.
Thank you. Trustee Marks?
So based on that, in each year we're able to make revisions if we need to, based on what you just said. So that, okay, just in case for other people to
Correct.
know.
We are actually expected to analyze the plan, report our outcomes, and then what would we do the same or different based on those outcomes.
Okay, thank you.
See no further lights. I'm looking for a motion to approve the local control and accountability plan for the years 2021 through 2024.
I'll move approval.
Moved by Trustee Marks and seconded by Trustee Vice President Lopez. All in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay and raise your hand. See none, the motion carries unanimously. We are going to move on. Thank you, Mr. Hurst. Thank you. We're moving on to item B7 now, which is the approval of certification of the 2021-2022 budget for all funds and authorization to transmit copies to local and state agencies. Mr. Zierle.
Thank you again, President West, trustees. Following the approval of the LCAP is the approval of the budget for the 21-22 fiscal year. There have been no changes at all since the June 7th public hearing presentation to the school board. So we are recommending that the Board of Education approve the 21-22 budget for all funds and authorizing staff to transmit copies to both local and state agencies.
Thank you. Ms. Chambers, do we have any publics from the comment? Excuse me, I'm a little tired. Do we have any comments from the public on this item? Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve the budget adoption certification for two local and state agencies. And this is moved by Trustee Brown and seconded by Trustee Marks. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Any opposed, raise your hand and say nay. Seeing none, the motion carries unanimously. Item B8 is the approval of resolution number 2021-38, adopting the education protection account for the fiscal year 2021-2022. Mr. Zierle?
Thank you again. This is an annual resolution at the time that the budget is approved by the Board of Trustees. Proposition 55 extended the education protection account that was created under Proposition 30. It was an account that was set up to receive revenues from the incremental tax increases. And the resolution states that all monies that we receive through the education protection account shall be spent on classroom teachers' salaries and benefits. This is an annual resolution that we do every year following the budget adoption, with the same stipulation as to how we're spending the funds.
Thank you, Mr. Zierle. Ms. Chambers, do we have any comments from the public on this item? No? Do we have any questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve the resolution number 2021-38, adopting the education protection account for fiscal year 2021-2022.
I'll go ahead and motion.
Okay, Vice President Lopez, and seconded by?
I'll second.
Trustee Marks. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Any opposed, raise your hand and say nay. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And now we're moving on to item B9. This is the approval of amendment to employment agreement with Dr. Sarah Noguchi, Superintendent. Tonight, the board is considering the recommended approval of an amendment to Dr. Noguchi's employment agreement with the Board of Trustees. Government Code Section 54953 requires the board to receive a verbal summary of any employment agreement with a local agency representative prior to taking final action. In accordance with this requirement, the amendment states, Dr. Noguchi's employment agreement is extended from June 30th, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. Commencing the 2021-2022 school year, Dr. Noguchi is eligible to receive the doctoral stipend and professional development stipends commensurate with the other management employees. Also commencing the 2020-2021 school year, Dr. Noguchi may elect to be paid up to 10 days of accrued vacation for her existing daily rate of pay. Ms. Chambers, do we have any comments from the public on this item? None. Do we have any questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve the amendment of employment agreement with Dr. Sarah Noguchi, Superintendent. It is moved by Trustee Brown, seconded by
I'll second it.
Trustee Marks. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Any opposed, raise your hand and say nay. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. This brings us to items to be placed on future Board of Education agendas. Do we have anything tonight? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Trustee Marks, seconded by Vice President Lopez. Thank you. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Raise your hand and say nay. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously, and this meeting is now over. Thank you.